Alright YouTube, for this vlog I'm doing the Jones Beach Star Wars Episode XIII movie pitch, so let's dive in. This will be collaborating both my own ideas as well as a little bit of a fusion with the confirmed Star Wars Episodes 10, 11, 12, some things I want to see in those as well as things I want to see for my own version of Star Wars Episode XIII, so without further ado I'll show some artwork that relates and both things I want to see in both Episode 10 as well as 11 and 12 and my own Episode 13 are these three being Jedi, the Hutt, the Jawa, and the Ewok, because they're very rare species to have of Jedi, and with the new Star Wars trilogy focusing on the Jedi Order and Rey having a major role, I think it's a great opportunity to introduce some familiar but different faces for the Jedi Order, such as, those three I just mentioned, because I don't recall seeing the Ewoks much in recent Star Wars, but a lot of people, I think, in Return of the Jedi didn't like them, but I think it's a golden opportunity to make them cool again is by, making one a Jedi. Wookiee Jedi, I'm kind of iffy on because, I don't know, it's kind of cool, but I kind of like keeping it for the Clone Wars. And I remember back when The Mandalorian came out, we saw Jawas, so I want to see the return of the Jawas. And, of course, with the Mandalorian movie, we'll be seeing a Hutt that's a fighter, so, I don't think a Hutt being a Jedi is too crazy. Next up, some other characters I want to see. Maybe these three as Jedi or as, Force side users. These three seem more villainous based on the drawings I made. Of course, the Bulba species and the Wampa. Wampa being a Sith or a Jedi is fascinating. And this other character, I'm not familiar with the species because I just saw it in a YouTube thumbnail of Star Wars species. So I still drew it and like how this drawing came out. So I'm definitely going to use these three for Star Wars Episode 13, Jones Beach. Although it's not confirmed, there are rumors that there's going to be a Star Wars Starfighter sequel and that Ryan Gosling's character is Cade Skywalker. And if that's the case, I want to see this ship in the Star Wars Starfighter, either first one or the sequel, or a ship that looks just like this, because this is the coolest Star Wars ship ever, and it's a shame this has only been featured in the Clone Wars Retcon 2003 Volume 1, because this is just the coolest ship ever, and it's literally, like, broken. This is, like, my favorite Lego set, so kind of geeking out about it right now. And for the real Star Wars Episode 10, 11, 12, or the official one, rather, I imagine that Luke Skywalker will have flashbacks, and so will Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, and I remember originally hearing he was going to go bald in the Episode 9, which could have been a cool thing for him, to see his descent to the dark side that shaves his head and becomes, like, a whole new character. That's, kind of intriguing, but don't really mind that they didn't do it. I just kind of find this interesting, but honestly, the origin behind this is I just lost the hairpiece, and I do want to see the Darksaber back in Star Wars. And going back to what I was saying about the Starfighter scenes, I think for Jones Beach Star Wars Episode 13, it will be sort of a mix of the Starfighter and Jedi Order movies, so the ship like Boba Fett's starship will be featured. But I would probably keep the Mandalorians out of this trilogy, or out of this episode at least. Not that I don't like them, but with the Mandalorian and Grogu being so recent, and they're probably going to be another season of Mandalorian after Mandalorian and Grogu, although I'm hearing, like, back and forth things about the future of Mandalorian after the Mandalorian and Grogu. I, think we want to keep these guys a little bit in the shadows. What we don't want to keep in the shadows is this guy, the new Sith threat, and we will not see his face much. Speaking of which, I heard something interesting that supposedly Count Dooku originally was planning to betray, Emperor Palpatine, and apparently it was like a retcon thing where now he is a Sith, and it's kind of interesting, but, it's kind of weird when they go back and change things sometimes, but I do think it could be fascinating to explore that realm of Count Dooku's life when, with this retcon about him being a true Sith and, him going full dark side could have been a fascinating twist, because what intrigues me about Dooku is that he's a pretty tame Sith, and he's like, basically just a fallen Jedi, and, he's really cool, so want to explore a character similar to Count Dooku in this, and as well as the official episodes in 10. I do kind of want to steal something from Dune Part 2 and do a scene in black and white, but not in like a black and white camera like everyone's painted black and white, because it's a fascinating, as well as an epic battle. But for Jones Beach Star Wars Episode 13, although imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, we're not going to do that for a battle scene. We're going to do it for a lesser predictable scene, but sort of just to keep things fresh. One thing I do hope to see both in the real Star Wars episode trilogy and my own Episode 13 is the return to the Gungan underwater city, or some variation of an underwater city, because it's just so cool and fascinating to see an underwater city, and I feel like it was kind of not explored enough in The Phantom Menace, so perfect opportunity to pick up from there. And like I said, I want to see this both in the official Star Wars as well as my own Star Wars Episode 13 that I'm currently talking about and going back and forth about. So in conclusion, the biggest thing I want to see in both my Star Wars Episode 13 and the upcoming Star Wars trilogy is underrated characters and underrated species, and particularly better word maybe unused and uncommon species as Jedi, such as Ewok and of course the Jawa and the other characters that I'm forgetting. But me forgetting it is kind of in a way almost a good thing, because that's, you know, a perfect opportunity to show these Star Wars species that are fascinating and look so cool but only appear in the background for like 2 seconds. Or I don't know, point is I just want to see some creativity and explore species of Jedi. It's maybe just a really weird niche for me, but it's just something I want to see. Of course, lurking in the shadows are the Sith threat, and I'll turn them around. I believe this is a Lord of the Rings character that I put a cloak on and gave a red lightsaber and called a Sith, but that's the best way to make a Sith is give him a red cloak, red hood, and a Sith lightsaber. Make him Lord of the Rings character. Boom. So yeah, overall this has been kind of a vague vlog because I'm kind of talking about a few ideas, a few unscripted and really unscripted ideas I have for both an upcoming official Star Wars trilogy and my own Episode 13. So look forward to seeing Jones Beach Star Wars Episode 14 movie pitch. Until then, thanks for watching. Stay tuned more soon. Goodbye.